Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Return to School Parent Information Session. As we always do, we begin with prayer, so please join me in the sign of our faith. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. A prayer as I put on my mask. Creator, as I prepare to go into the world, help me to see the sacrament in the wearing of this cloth. Let it be an outward sign of an inward grace, a tangible and visible way of living, love for my neighbors as I love myself. Christ, since my lips will be covered, uncover my heart, that people would see my eyes in the crinkles around see my smile in the crinkles around my eyes. Since my voice may be muffled, help me to speak clearly, not only with my words, but with my actions. Holy Spirit, as the elastic touches my ears, remind me to listen carefully and full of care to all those I meet. May this simple piece of cloth be shield and banner, and each breath that it holds be filled with your love. In your name and in the name of love, I pray, may it be so. May it be so. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. And I do have a reflection I'd also like to share before we begin. I don't need the mask for that one. Back to school this year is ideal for no one. Not for teachers, not for educators, not for parents. Hybrid is not ideal. Virtual is not ideal. Face-to-face in the midst of a pandemic is not ideal. For every kid who is anxious to get back to the classroom, there is another who has anxiety about returning. For every parent who wonders, how am I going to manage this? There is an educator wondering, how am I going to manage this? Often a person wears both titles. For every kindergarten parent who is sad that this is how their child will begin their education, there is a parent of a senior who is bummed that this is how their child will end theirs. For every person angry about their child having to wear a mask, there is a person who is petrified their immune-compromised family member will get ill. Life has thrown us a huge curveball, a plot twist, if you will. It will not be easy. We will be challenged. We will get frustrated. I hope we rise to the occasion. I hope we help one another. We will all need help. I hope we treat each other with grace. We will all need grace. I hope we realize that at the end of the day, our kids need us to be the light, set the tone, see the good, take the really unfortunate situation and do our best to make it okay for them, for us. So thank you for indulging me. I would like now to turn it over to Ricky Watson and Trina Henley for introductions in just a few seconds. And Trina will also play a video after her introduction that we'd like to share. After that, I will do a brief opening, a few words. I have a bit of a website demonstration that I'd like to go through to highlight some points of our back to school plan. And then we will have the main portion of our evening, which is our interactive Q&A. And after I do the demonstration of the websites, Trina and Ricky will describe the process for asking questions and the answering portion. So I'll turn it over to Ricky Watson right now for introduction, and she'll pass that on to Trina Henley. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ricky Watson. I'm the Community Relations Lead for the Kenora Catholic District School Board.
Hi, everybody. I'm Trina Henley. I'm the Executive Assistant to the Director, work in the Director's Department, and work in Communication Services for Kenora Catholic. Welcome to all of our families out there tonight. So I'm going to go ahead now and share a video with you guys. Ricky, can you see it on the screen?
Yes.
And you can hear it?
Yes.
months haven't been easy for me.
They haven't been easy for anyone.
C'est difficile d'être loin de mes amis.
I miss my teachers and school staff.
Maybe you miss me too?
You have, right?
Thank you for helping me learn how to learn at home. When you checked in with me, just to make sure I was okay, it meant a lot. I miss you.
I liked seeing my educational assistant on my computer. She helped me a lot during our time away from school.
And I hope you stayed okay too.
I'm really excited to go back to school. I'm excited to see my friends
To see my teachers again.
face to face, but it's a little bit scary too.
Maybe you're a bit scared.
If you are, I get it. There's a lot of questions. And a lot of unknowns. A lot. Here's what I know.
I know you care for me.
I know you'll keep me physically safe.
And mentally healthy.
And I know you'll keep helping me achieve.
Because that's what you always do. You make me feel welcome, safe, included. You always do.
And it means a lot.
Even if I don't say it. It really means a lot. I miss talking to you in class, talking about what's happening in the world.
With COVID-19,
About my experience of anti-Black racism.
honestly, some of it has been hard to process.
But I'm sure glad murder hornets didn't become a thing.
I know you'll give us a safe, secure, inclusive place to talk about anything.
And I mean anything.
And everything.
It's a strange time.
Kids are nervous. I'm sure you are too. But that's what you do. You beat the challenges every day. And you do it so well. You're a team. You collaborate.
You connect.
You always support me.
And some kids need even more support.
Mental health support.
Guidance. Inside the school and outside the school.
You help. And that's what matters.
But I'm still a bit worried. Worried about my parents and my friends.
And my grandparents and my cousin.
My brothers and sisters.
Who are you worried about?
C'est un défi, mais c'est correct. Vous n'avez pas à être parfait.
Just take care of yourself. That's the best way to help take care of us. S'il vous plaît, n'oubliez pas. Vous devez savoir et ne jamais oublier. Nous tenons à vous tous. The difference you make. The difference your smile makes.
The difference your care for me makes.
It makes me feel better.
Makes me feel safe.
Included.
Just please remember, you should know and never forget. All of you are appreciated. Even when things aren't normal.
You're still amazing.
Every single day.
Every single day.
Thank you to all the dedicated staff in our schools. You make a difference in our lives. You guys are great. Thank you, teachers. Thank you. I can't wait to be back. Teachers, you got this.
And thank you, Trina, and thank you, Ricky, and thanks to School Mental Health Ontario for such an excellent video, and to all the experts there. We have many of our experts in our own system, our students and our staff, and as always, I'm quite inspired by them. We're very much looking forward to the return of our students. Over 90% of our students will be returning. And some families have looked at all the factors and feel that an at-home educator-directed learning experience is best at this time, and we rest assured we will do our utmost to have that experience be as close as possible to a face-to-face experience. So again, without further ado, we will proceed with our program this evening. I'd like to do a bit of a demonstration. So if you'll indulge me, I'm going to share my screen. And so I'll share my desktop. And you should be able to see the Google page right now, because I'm going to demonstrate this is so easy, even a director can do it. So, so we'll start with KCDSB. And that will bring us magically to our web page. And you can see right on our marquee page, the return to school updates. And we do want to read more, so we'll click read more. And now you can see the return to school update with our return to school plan. I'd like to highlight a couple of things before we do a brief overview of the plan. And that's the I'd like to highlight this plan was created in consultation with many partners, including the Northwestern Health Unit, the Northwestern Ontario Student Services Consortium, and of course it adheres to the Ministry of Education's Guide to Reopening Ontario Schools. I'd just like to click on the Northwestern Health Unit link, and you'll see that that brings you right to their website. And you can see the COVID-19 updates, and you can click on that. And there's a section here called Returning to School Safely. And so that's a very easy way, and we have links to that advertised also. And when I click on that, there's all kinds of resources and hyperlinks about COVID-19 and safe return to school that our partners at the Northwestern Health Unit have put together. Because I know many of your questions are understandably with respect to COVID-19. And who better than our health unit to answer those questions. And so there's some tips and direction, and these are hyperlinked also. Many resources are here, and there's printable resources also, many of which you'll see around the schools, and we'll be highlighting on our social media pages and our website. And if you want to go round and round and round, you can look at the links for all the local school boards, including ours, and you can go right back to where we started. So we will do that. And so magically we go back there in a circle. I'd like to highlight before I open up the plan also frequently asked questions. So I'll just click on that briefly so you can see. And these are organized into health and safety, learning and instruction, mental health, operations, and technology. And you can see there's a whole host of excellent questions, many of which were asked by you at earlier sessions that we were able to answer. And so if, you know, how will students and staff be screened, for example, and then you click on the addition sign, and then you get the answer there. So we'll just go back, and I will click here for Kenora Catholic's Return to School Plan. See, remember I said so simple, even a director can do it. So, and this plan, as you can see, is 36 pages, put together through the incredible work of many people, too numerous to list right now, with the input of many folks, including our students. So I'll just go over the table of contents. The table of contents is hyperlinked, so you can click on any of the blue and it will take you right to that section. And so you can see introduction, guiding principles, the role of public health, a return to school survey, communication, health and safety, and those headings that you saw in the Q&A, health and safety, learning and instruction, mental health technology, operations, transportation, a guideline for COVID-19 in schools, and then you can see the Q&A can also be arrived at there. So and there's resources and references also, because we consulted many different resources to put together this plan. So it is a very comprehensive plan, one I'm very proud of, one that makes this return to school, I believe, as safe as it possibly can be. And so again, it's 36 pages with many hyperlinks, so I won't review it in detail, but I encourage you to go there and find out all the information that you will need to have a safe return to school. So I'm not going to highlight the plan, but I do want to highlight a couple of changes since our last meeting before we delve into the Q&A. One of these changes has to do with St. Thomas Aquinas High School. And we have changed from our traditional semestered system to a quadmastered system. And what that means, instead of 2 halves to the year, we have 4 quarters to the year. So Quadmaster 1, where students will take 2 courses, runs from August 31st to November 10th. Don't worry, students, you don't have to start on August 31st. That includes the PD days that are at the start. That will end on November 10th. Quadmaster 2 is from November 11th to January 29th. Quadmaster 3 runs from February 1st to April 19th. And Quadmaster 4 runs from April 20th to June 25th. And there's several other key dates. Don't worry, you didn't have to madly write that down. St. Thomas Aquinas High School will be communicating that directly with all students and families very shortly. So I just wanted to highlight that. So what happens during a quadmester? How is it different compared to a semester? Well, in a semester, students would have 4 classes generally in a day. Of about 75 minutes long. In a quadmester, students have 2 classes per day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and they're about 150 minutes long. Hence the shorter time span for each quadmester. The 110 hours that are requisite for each credit is covered in the quadmester. Just it takes about 9 weeks instead of about 18 or 19 weeks. So that's the quadmester. In addition, this is a big change, and so there will be a bit of a staggered start. And again, I believe I've dropped that piece of paper, so please indulge me while I pick it up. But again, you don't have to remember this, because St. Thomas Aquinas will be communicating directly with students and families. But on Thursday, September 3rd, grade 7s and 9s will start, and then they will continue. On Friday, September 4th, grade 8s and 12s will be added in, and of course the 7s and 9s continue. On Tuesday, September 8th, grade 10s will be added. And on Wednesday, September 9th, grade 11s will be added. So this staggered start allows us, with smaller numbers, to really give students attention to help them with this rather dramatic change at the secondary level. But don't worry, students and families, our staff certainly have this. Again, the staggered start is just to make sure we get routines firmly practiced. Well practiced for the time on Wednesday, September 9th, when all students are at the high school. So some may ask, well, what about our elementary schools? Well, our elementary schools will not have a staggered start. They have smaller numbers, and we will be able to manage to start all of our elementary schools on September 3rd. So with that, I won't steal your thunder because I know you want to ask some questions, but before we do that, I will invite Trina and Ricky to explain how to ask a question and what the process will be for the rest of the evening. So Trina, please.
Thanks, Derek. You bet. So for many of our families and parents and guardians that have attended our previous sessions, you know what to expect, and we can already see many of your questions already coming in the live Q&A chat window. But for anybody who is new tonight, the next part of the session tonight is going to be interactive and engaging, and so it's going to allow for two-way communication. And so we encourage you, if you're comfortable, to please use your first name to ask questions. And we certainly understand that not everybody is comfortable using their name, so you can also choose to be anonymous. And to ask a question, click on the question mark box in the upper right corner of your screen, and that will open up the live event Q&A chat window. And so in that window, you can just type your questions, and then what Ricky and I will do is we're going to moderate the questions for Derek. So we are going to read them each one at a time, and then Derek's going to answer the questions one at a time. And so you're not going to automatically see your questions show up in the window, because we're going to process them one at a time and just hold them in a queue. The other thing that Ricky and I are going to do tonight is we are going to be watching for duplicate questions, just so we can respect everybody's time. And if there are duplicate questions, we're going to try to bundle them together. And so after the questions have been asked and processed, you can click on the button that's called featured, and then that way you can see all the different questions that have already been asked. Ricky, do you have anything that you can think of that we should add?
Yeah, just one thing. What we've learned is that it's better if you can make your questions as concise and short as possible. So if you have a multi-part question, if you could break it into 2 parts and publish the first part and then publish the second part, it just helps communication run a bit smoother.
Excellent. So Derek, if you're ready, we're ready. We'll get started.
I am ready.
Okay, so the first question says, is there going to be a staggered start for school? And you've already answered that question in your preamble. So I'm just going to publish that one and move on to the next one. So your next question is from an anonymous viewer, and it says, how is remote learning going to work, especially for classes like music, keyboarding, physical education?
Great question, thank you, and that's a very detailed question. So what I failed to mention earlier when I was talking about the staggered start, there will be a staggered start for the teacher-directed at-home learning also. So what that means is there will be some asynchronous or activities divided by grade directly sent to you, to families and students. And then later on in the second week, we start on the Thursday and have the Friday, and then Labor Day happens. But later on that week, your primary teacher will be contacting you. So the question about subject-specific areas, similar to what we experienced in between March break and the end of June, there's several innovative ways to facilitate learning in some of the subjects that wouldn't often be delivered online, and you gave some examples of those. So there are many different tutorials, there are many different demonstrations that can be done online, and that type of technology will be leveraged to give an as close to face-to-face learning experience in all grades, subjects, and disciplines as possible. So I know that may not be as specific, but that gives you an idea. And our teachers are, as you know, out of necessity become quite expert in facilitating learning in an online environment. So thank you so much for that question. It was an excellent question.
Okay, Derek, your next question is from Anonymous, and they are wondering when parents can expect to hear from schools about remote learning.
So again, related to the previous question, we will be sending packages directly to online packages directly by grade to inform the work your student can do in the first couple of days, and then you will be contacted directly by your main teacher with further instruction and synchronous sessions. What the difference you'll notice between the online experience you had between March break and June and the online experience at home is there'll be a much greater portion of synchronous learning. And what I mean by synchronous learning is live two-way communication with students and teachers. So thank you for that question.
Okay, so your next question is about remote learning students, and it's about the high school students that are enrolled in remote learning. Will they also be doing the Quadmasters, Derek?
Through remote learning, it will be mirroring the face-to-face as closely as possible. So they will be in Quadmasters in effect. The reason being is so if students do start with online learning and wish, for example, at the start of the next Quadmaster to join face-to-face, that will be facilitated in a much easier way. So thank you for that question.
The next question isn't a question, it's a comment, and they just want to say, it's from Anonymous, they want to say thank you to the school board and the teachers and everyone attached to planning the return to school plan, and regardless of anyone's choice for full-time or virtual learning, they know that everyone has their family's best interest at heart, so they just wanted to say thank you. And then moving on, the next question is from Anonymous, and they would like to know if the schools will be providing masks to students.
So excellent question, and we're encouraging students to wear their masks they're comfortable with and come with their own masks. So students are asked to have their own masks, but if for some reason a student forgets their mask or it becomes damaged or dirty, then we will have a small supply of masks at the schools so that every student can still have a mask. But we're encouraging students to have the mask they're most comfortable with. We're asking for that, in fact, that students bring their own mask to school. So thank you for allowing us to highlight that.
Okay, so your next question is from an anonymous viewer, and it's about remote learning again. So will the remote learning students also be following the staggered start dates?
So thank you for allowing me to clarify. So there will be information sent to all students who are engaged in educator-directed at-home learning. Immediately, there'll be activities and resources sent, but the direct contact with the teacher will be later on in the following week. So again, we start on a partial week, the Thursday, Friday. You probably won't hear directly from your teacher except that initial email with the resources, but it'll be the next week. So it'll be staggered in that way.
So the next question is from Wendy, and she would like to know when parents or students will be able to pick up their textbooks or Chromebooks for remote learning.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for the clarification about remote learning. So that'll be a little bit of the staggering also, and there'll be instructions directly given by our folks who are looking after what's called the virtual school closer to that time.
Alrighty, so the next one comes from Nikki, and it's more of a statement. So Nikki says, thank you for all of the information you have been providing thus far to keep families informed.
Thanks, Nikki.
And so your next question is coming from an anonymous person, and they would like to know just additional clarification around the staggered start. So the grade 10 students return to school on September 8th and not September 3rd?
That is correct. Thank you for highlighting that. And just to review that, to make sure I was clear, on Thursday, September 3rd, grade 7 and 9 students will attend, and then they will keep attending from there. On Friday, September 4th, grade 8 and 12 will be added into the 7s and 9s, and they will keep attending after that. On Tuesday, September 8th, will be the first time grade 10 students do come, and they'll join their friends in grades 7, 8, 9, and 12. And then finally on Wednesday, September 9th, grade 11s will join everyone else. And from there in, everybody will be at school together. So thank you for allowing me again to clarify, and I apologize if I wasn't clear the first time.
So the next question is from an anonymous person, and they would like to know that many childcare centers are required to wear both masks and face shields. They're wondering if teachers will also need to wear both a mask and face shield.
Thank you. The guidance childcare centers receive is different from the guidance we receive from the Ministry of Education. So all staff do have masks and face shields, but they won't necessarily be wearing the face shield all the time. That'll be for when there's close-up work to be done. They have their face shield to add to their mask, because the mask is mandatory to be worn all the time by all staff and by students in grades 4 to 12. Students in JK to 3 are encouraged to wear masks at all times too, but it's not mandatory for students in JK to 3. Thank you.
Okay, so your next question is coming from Nikki, and Nikki asks, could you provide more information about the proposed cohorts, please? What will this mean in the classroom? How many students will be grouped in a cohort?
So great questions. And so a cohort is a group of students who will spend the bulk of their time together. In our elementary schools, there'll be one cohort in a classroom, and that's basically the traditional classroom. The numbers, some families have elected for at-home online learning, so that and we have added staffing wherever we can to keep numbers as low as we can. We don't have the funding to get to the 15 to 1 that you often see published, but I can tell you that right now at the elementary level, our largest classes are 22. Our average, both the mean, median, and mode for all of you math experts out there, 17 is the mean, median, and mode. So I look at the median especially. There's a number of classes at 17, so this is why I'll explain it this way. Half of our classes are 17 or less, and half of our classes are 17 or more, but none of those classes are above 22 at this point. So we got the numbers down with the available funding, the available space, the available staffing we had to to that, and that will enable us to get the maximum physical distancing that the square footage of each classroom allows. And I don't know if I answered that question completely. I got a little carried away there. So cohorting again. Oh, so I wanted to highlight at secondary because it's a little different. In the Quadmaster system, the students will belong to 2 cohorts. We will try to match those cohorts and overlap them as much as we can, but given that students take a wide variety of courses, that is not always possible. But the Quadmaster system allows us to limit the contacts in a much greater way than the semestered system, and that's primarily why we went with the Quadmaster. So thank you.
So your next question is from Darren, and it's kind of a two-parter. He would like to know if his child stays home because of illness, are they expected to get tested for COVID? And if they do get tested and it's negative, when can they return to school?
So Darren, thank you for those questions. Excellent. And that's why I purposefully highlighted the Northwest Health Unit website. As I've said to folks before, I'm a doctor, but I'm the wrong kind of doctor. I'm a doctor of education, but I'll do my best. So if a child or a staff member exhibits symptoms of illness, they're to stay home. That is the broad message. And as far as testing goes, if there's multiple symptoms, according to the symptoms the Northwest Health Unit identifies for COVID, then you may be advised to contact your medical health professional to see if testing is warranted. And if someone's tested and simply has a cold, they're still asked to stay home while they're sick. We always do ask for that, even when we weren't in COVID times. So basically the broad answer is if staff or students are sick, they are asked to stay home until they're better. So thanks, Darren. Great questions.
Derek, I can't help but wonder if our families would find it valuable. We had a wonderful, wonderful session this morning with Dr. Kit Young-Hoon from the Northwestern Health Unit. And Dr. Kit Young-Hoon provided so much information about the Northwestern Health Unit's protocols on students and COVID. I could certainly share the video in the chat window with families if you think that would be valuable.
I think that I think that could be a great idea, but we'll see if we can do that, and we'll check with the Northwest Health Unit to make sure that they're okay with that too.
Excellent. Okay, so your next question is, if my child has symptoms and needs to stay home for a few days, how will teachers ensure the schoolwork continues?
So if your child has symptoms and needs to stay home, it's the same as a regular illness. So your classroom teacher, the cohort teacher, will send work home so your child can continue as they're able, depending on how sick they are. So that really doesn't change from our regular routine. So thank you.
So your next question is from Karen, and she would like to know if there will be information available to families who have chosen virtual learning so that they have support to help their child mentally work from home with their schoolwork.
Absolutely, great question. And our mental health team and Schools Mental Health Ontario have a wide variety of resources. You can find links to those on our website, because absolutely getting ready mentally for the start of school is important, whether you're a learner who's learning at home virtually or face-to-face, and many of those things apply, and there's some specifics that certainly apply to learning at home. So School Mental Health Ontario and our very own excellent mental health team have provided a large number of resources and information to assist with that. So thank you, Karen. Great question.
Okay, here comes another good question from Anonymous. Extra custodial staff is going to be an extremely important and vital role for ensuring cleaning protocols are carried out to keep all staff and students safe. Have those positions been filled? And if not, how will those needs be met?
So we have indeed hired extra custodial staff due to the increased cleaning demands. So that is being looked after. And if we find we do need additional support, we will look for that support also. But we have done some hiring and increased our cohort of excellent custodial staff. And thank you again for answering that question. I'd like to give a shout out to our custodial staff, because not only in COVID times, but in all times, they do such excellent work to ensure we have a safe and clean learning environment. And I always say that at Kenora Catholic, we're all educators. That is a key portion of education also. And so again, a big shout out to all of our custodians and maintenance staff for the excellent work you do day in and day out, and all of the extra things that you've done in this COVID world now to ensure we can make a safe return to school. So God bless you all, and thank you again for that question. So it enabled me to give that special thank you.
So the next question is from Anonymous, and it is about kindergarten students. They're wondering what play will look like and if kids will have toys and books in their cohorts.
They certainly will. It'll look a little different. The items like plush stuffies and whatnot, you won't see very much of because it's so difficult to clean those. But the other items that we can clean on a regular basis will certainly be part of kindergarten students' learning environment. Thank you.
Okay, so your next question is about logistics involving masks for the younger students. And the question is, my understanding is that elementary students will be allowed to take their masks off when they play outside. What will they do with their masks? Will they need to bring them outside with them and then leave them somewhere? Should I send a container and a lid for my child, or is there another plan in place for just managing masks of younger children?
So a great question. Certainly there will be breaks outside. Students won't have to wear masks when they play outside. That will give a break. And if students are in distress, they'll just let their educator know, and they'll be provided with a safe way to take a bit of a break. But again, for students in grade 4 to 12, masks will be mandatory, and mask use for students in JK to 3 will be encouraged, although not mandatory. So they won't be bringing their masks outside. There'll be a safe spot, a safe and clean spot for them to put their masks, and according to the advice we receive for mask storage from the Northwest Health Unit. Teachers may ask for you to send a container, but you will get specific direction from your classroom teacher and your school with respect to mask storage at recess. So thank you for that great detailed question, and I really appreciate being able to walk through that.
So the next question is from Anonymous. They're saying that they're wondering how someone can access IT services if their Chromebook or school computer isn't working.
Okay, thank you. So you're right now, until you have a teacher or an educator assigned specifically to you, do contact your current school's principal or vice principal, and they will assist with this. So thank you so much for the question, and we will do everything we reasonably can do to ensure that this situation is rectified. So thank you for the question.
Okay, so I accidentally published this one before you had a chance to answer it, but here comes the question. Will teachers be getting support and training to provide quality synchronous virtual teaching? This is a new skill for a lot of teachers.
Not so new, because we've been at it since March break, but we will have continued and further training. We also have an administrator. How we're organizing this, and I don't want anybody to get too hung up on it, but we will have a virtual elementary school and a virtual secondary school, and there will be an administrator tied to that very shortly. And so there will be further training, just like at a face-to-face school, but the training will be ongoing and specific, especially as there's you know, the whole world is engaging, still engaging in some type of virtual learning in many instances. And so there'll be innovations from around the world that will continually be adding to ever improve the online teacher-led at home learning experience. So thank you for that question.
The next question is from Anonymous, and they're wondering how many positive cases of COVID-19 there need to be before a school closes and what the procedure is.
So a great Northwest Health Unit question, and we have posted the links to Dr. Young-Hoon's sessions that are upcoming, and those are excellent questions to ask there. I don't have a hard and fast number. I do know that if there are positive cases, that the Northwest Health Unit will spring into action immediately in an investigation and will issue directions to everyone involved, including the schools. And we will, of course, carry out the direction from the Northwest Health Unit in those instances. So for further details, sorry, Trina. So for further details, do attend. I believe it's Thursday at 1 o'clock, if I'm correct, Trina and Ricky, that Dr. Young-Hoon will be having another Q&A. And there's also links on the Northwest Health Unit website where you can ask your questions and have them answered.
And they promote them on their Facebook site as well.
Thank you.
Okay, next question is from Liz. And Liz is asking, is it possible to live stream the classroom instruction for those students that are engaging in remote learning? In essence, the remote students would receive the exact lesson in conjunction with the students in the classroom. It's not that it's not possible, it's not practical. The teacher who's teaching face-to-face is focused on the students that are there, and the experience of live streaming wouldn't be the same as a teacher-directed at-home learning experience using one of our platforms. So that wouldn't be the case. That being said, the teachers that are teaching that are leading the at-home learning experiences will have access to the teachers doing the face-to-face learning, and they will do their best to communicate and try to keep as much commonality, if you will, as possible for our at-home learners.
So the next question is from Karen, and she asks, what if a learner experiences anxiety in a live virtual environment? How will the learner be supported to ensure their assessment and evaluation is not compromised as a result of their anxiety that is the direct result of moving to a virtual learning environment?
Thank you, Karen. A great question that has been asked before since we were in this situation. And our mental health team probably always were extremely adept, but has also become even more adept at providing support to at-home learners, and so that will continue to be available. And your child's teacher will be able to help access the supports that are required to ensure that your student, your child, or yourself, if you're a student, can continue to achieve to the best of their potential. Thank you, Karen.
Okay, so your next question is from Lee, and Lee asks, will grades 7 and 8 be doing Quadmasters as well, or is it just for the grades 9 to 12 students?
7 and 8s will not be doing Quadmasters. They will have the cohorting that you see more in elementary. So yes, the Quadmastering is just for grades 9 to 12. Thank you, Lee, for allowing me to clarify that.
So the next question is from Trina, and Trina asks, is it possible for students to receive a timetable prior to the first day of school to know what 2 subjects they will be starting for the Quadmuster system?
So great question, Trina, and many students and parents have this question also. Timetables will be out as soon as we can. We did have to make a late switch due to the ever-changing information we're receiving, and staff have been working feverishly to get timetables out. Quadmasters isn't something we've done before, and so our systems, we have to get them to adapt very quickly. So all I can tell you is you will receive your timetable soon. We realize this does add stress, the getting your schedules later, but staff are working very hard to get those schedules out as soon as possible. So again, thank you for that question. I know many have had it.
All right, this next question tugs on my heartstrings a little bit. It's from an anonymous viewer. My daughter would like to know where she should go when she gets to school on the first day.
So great question, and absolutely. So students will get to school as they would any other year. If it's before bell time, they will be on the yard as they normally would, and there will be clear instruction given to students when they're on the yard about where they will line up and be brought into the school. So so there won't be an assembly in the gym as you may be accustomed to, for example, because of COVID-19 we can't gather in those large groups in an enclosed space like a gym with several hundred students. So there will be instruction given, clear instruction given when your child arrives outside. So thank you very much for that question.
And the next question is from an anonymous viewer who would just like a little bit of clarification. Should students in elementary school still show up at the same time in the morning?
Yes, so it will be the same time in September 3rd as you would be accustomed to. If that varies at all, you will receive direct communication from your school.
Okay, next question. This person would like to know, how are breaks going to work?
Okay, so in a Quadmastered system, there will still be a lunch break for grades 9 to 12, and for elementary students, there will be breaks built into the day within their cohort. If there are times to go to locker, those will be staggered in such a way that their students are distanced when they go to their lockers. Locker assignments have been organized in a way that students will be able to distance appropriately also. So there'll be a few more controls introduced to ensure the safety of everyone during breaks, because we can't have the congestion that we may have during breaks in our regular schooling prior to COVID. So I hope that answers your question. Please, anonymous, do ask it in a different way if I didn't answer that fully.
So the next question is also from anonymous, and they're wondering, they say they've just received an email about booking a time to change timetables on Thursday and Friday this week. The return to school plan says students will get a timetable the first day of school. They're wondering if there's a way to find out student schedules before the first day of school.
So as I said previously, thank you for allowing me to clarify. Staff are working really hard to get timetables out as soon as possible, but you know, we want to under-promise and over-deliver if we can. So if we can get them out sooner, we will. But definitely, students will get their timetable on the first day of school. If there's a way to get it sooner, we will. But we can't guarantee that given the short timelines we're working with and dealing with such a new system. So thank you, and again, a shout out to the staff who are working so hard to get those timetables ready as quickly as possible.
Okay, so your next question is from an anonymous viewer, and this person asks, if both of my children go to the same school and one has a COVID symptom such as a cough, do I have to keep both kids home from school?
So thank you very much for the question, and this is one that Dr. Young-Hoon did clarify. At this point in time, if one of your children have a COVID symptom, but not a confirmed COVID case, but one of those symptoms identified with COVID, and another child is symptom-free, the symptom-free student can go to school. It does change if, and you will get direction from the health unit if it's indeed a confirmed COVID case. But for symptoms, if your child does not have a symptom, they can go to school. If your child is sick or a staff member is sick, they would stay home. So thank you.
The next question is actually a comment from anonymous, and they would like to thank our honorable director and his team for the time and effort they've put in for our children to return safely to school. God bless our director and his team and KCDSB.
And thank you. The honor is mine to work with such a fine team, including our students who have given us such great input and families. But thank you for that kind comment.
So your next question is from Anonymous, and they're wondering if there will still be gym classes for elementary and high school.
Yes, there will be gym classes within the cohorts or within the Quadmastered cohorts. It will look a little different. There'll be frequent cleaning of equipment in between uses, and so you'll notice a few differences. There may be modifications to activities, because there may be some activities that we did in the past that we can't do at this time when we're dealing with COVID. So in short, yes, there will be those activities. Thank you.
Next question is from an anonymous viewer. When should we be expecting information on buses?
So I will try to answer any questions specific to buses, but busing information will be out as soon as the Northwestern Transportation Consortium can get that out. This is a big change for busing too. They're trying to ascertain which students are riding the buses, which students are not, and getting the bus list down, going through the routes. So there's a lot of changes on our buses too. And again, a shout out to our bus operators and bus drivers who are part of our educator team to getting our students to school and back safely, who are working very hard. So information should be imminent, but again, do recognize there's an enormous amount of information to sort through, an enormous number of changes with respect to busing too. So that's why the information may be a little later than you're accustomed to. So thanks for that question.
The next question comes from Lindsay, and she's wondering, how will students be let into school at the beginning of the day, and how will they be let out at the end of the day? Will these times be staggered to allow for physical distancing?
So thank you for the question. Further details will be released at each school, because each school context is different. Some have more entrances and exits than others. But I'll give my best answer that applies to all of our schools. So the times won't be staggered per se, but students will be directed to, hang back in a line so that not everybody's crowding the door, for example, to allow for distancing. So there will be processes that students will be educated on to allow for maximum distancing during entrances and exits into the school, and you'll get more information at the school.
Okay, so your next question is from an anonymous viewer, and they ask, it's regarding the remote learning option. So if we have a student in grade 9, will they participate in synchronous learning with other grades, or will they participate in synchronous learning with their student peers?
So thank you, Karen. With learning all through the grades, you will have a group of peers that are enrolled together in the virtual school, but there will be some multi-grade experiences. We have fewer than 10% of our students are engaged in virtual learning, and so they will be grouped sometimes in multi-grades. But one of the great things about virtual learning is for the synchronous sessions, the teacher can have different synchronous sessions with smaller groups. And so indeed, sometimes they'll be one-on-one, sometimes they'll be with a small group of grade 9s, sometimes they'll be with the larger class that may indeed be multi-grade. So thanks for that question, allowing me to explain that a little more, Karen.
The next question is from Anonymous, and they're wondering if there will be person-to-person time for remote learning students.
Yes, as I explained in answering Karen's question, there will be some person-to-person time that will be at the discretion of the teacher who's leading the at-home teacher-directed learning, but that certainly will be available as required.
Okay, next question is coming from an anonymous viewer. And this person asks, if a student who's attending in-person learning needs to stay home due to illness for more than just a couple of days, perhaps even for 14 days to quarantine, how can they be supported to keep up with their schoolwork?
So there's a variety of ways, and this is the same as during our regular schooling. When a student is absent for an extended period of time or 1 or 2 days, work can be sent home, it can be emailed, there could be a telephone call. There's a variety of ways the classroom or subject teacher may communicate, but students will be supported, as they always are, when they can't be at school due to illness, to keep up with the work. So it's similar to what you've experienced in the past. I just wanted to, I know you didn't ask this directly, but there's not a mixing of the virtual school experience with the face-to-face. So it will be your classroom or subject teacher that will indeed direct you on how to keep up with your studies if you're a student, or direct families on how to support the student in keeping up with their studies while they're at home sick. So thank you.
So the next question is from Anonymous, and they're wondering if grade 7 students will still be doing their exploratories in the same cohort, and how many different teachers will they have?
So in elementary, so JK to 8, students will belong to a cohort. There may be another teacher, for example, a French language teacher, an Ojibwe language teacher, that may come into the class wearing full PPE and wearing their masks, I should say, and instructing. So grade 7 and 8 students, like any other grade, JK and up, may have a different teacher sometimes come into the classroom, but they will stay with their cohort.
Alrighty, the next question speaks to that really important relationship between children and educators, and the question is from an anonymous viewer. What kind of help will a child get, for example, if they fall and hurt their knee? Is there a chance for them to get a hug?
And again, because of COVID, we are caring for students, and educators will continue to care for students in the way students need. There may be a mask being worn, there may be PPE that has to be involved, but I know our educators will do their utmost to care for students and give them what they need when they need it. So thank you for that question.
The next question is from an anonymous person, and they would like some clarification. If someone tests positive for coronavirus, does that mean the entire school closes?
Not necessarily, but a closure would be an order from the Northwest Health Unit. And so if someone tests positive, the Northwest Health Unit springs into action very, very quickly and investigates and issues direction very quickly. So that may be the case, it may not be. It depends on a number of variables, which our excellent staff at the Northwest Health Unit are better able to answer than I am.
Okay, so your next question is from an anonymous viewer, and they just want to know some of the rationale behind Kenora Catholic's decision, particularly St. Thomas Aquinas High School's decision to have a staggered start date for the students.
So thank you. And that is only for, the staggered start dates are only for St. Thomas Aquinas High School. It's because of the big change to a Quadmuster system. It will take some getting used to, and so we'll be able to, the staff that don't have students will be able to assist with the students that come as they come, to give them further instruction and direction, be able to answer their questions in a more concentrated way, so students can get used to new routines and by the time everybody comes to school. So and with respect to online learning, we have to get final numbers for who are in the virtual schools to allow for the synchronous sessions to start. So that's why those will be delayed a bit, and teachers will get their class lists and whatnot, their online class lists a little later. So that will require a little more time for planning. So that's why the online synchronous learning will be delayed, although work will be sent prior to or on September 3rd for students to have appropriate activities to do until there's direct contact. So thanks for letting me answer those questions specific to St. Thomas Aquinas Staggered Start, and I added the virtual school Synchronous Staggered Start.
The next question is from an anonymous person, and they're wondering if a child is initially in remote learning, can they switch to in-class learning at any time?
We thank you for the question. We are doing our utmost to be flexible because we realize circumstances do change. Families may receive information that they didn't have before, and that may necessitate a change. So the change may not be immediate, but we will try to do that at many junctures throughout the year. It's a little tougher at the 9 to 12 level. We have to make sure there's synchronicity of courses and whatnot. But even under the Quadmaster system, even if you have to wait to the start of the next Quadmaster, it's not that long to wait because there's those 3 junctures throughout the year. But we'll do everything we can to have many entry points. But there may be a bit of a wait to facilitate that, both at elementary and secondary. So we ask for your patience if that's the situation.
Okay, so your next question is from an anonymous viewer. Will students find out who their teachers are prior to the start of the school year?
So thanks for the question. So just like the schedules at secondary, staff are working really hard to get that done. Parents have the difficult decision with their students of deciding between at home and at school learning, and some are still deciding. So we will, get that information out as soon as possible given the circumstances.
Your next question is from an anonymous viewer, and they say that their high school student has sensory issues and wearing a mask is going to be quite difficult. They're wondering if someone will be there to support their child with this issue.
Absolutely. When students are in distress and have difficulty, as always, our staff to be extremely caring, competent, and always watching for our students when they need assistance. And this year will be no different.
Okay, so your next question is from an anonymous viewer. How is hand hygiene going to be taught in the classroom?
So great question. So the Northwest Health Unit has given us great direction on proper hand hygiene. So we will be continually teaching and reminding about hand hygiene. I always say in Catholic schools, we can always say, if you say the Our Father slowly while you're washing your hands, that will give you the requisite amount of time, and it's a great way to pray too. But there will be various ways in which staff will teach good hand hygiene, getting all the areas, getting your fingernails, getting your thumbs, getting your wrist area. That will be emphasized. And while you asked that question, I wanted to add too about mask wearing. One thing our staff will be reminding students of all the time is this little mantra, if you will, or little saying: I wear my mask for you, you wear your mask for me. And so reminding us that we're doing it for the people around us. So students will be reminded of a variety of ways in which we can help keep ourselves and others safe, including the hand hygiene you mentioned. So thank you for the question.
The next question is from an anonymous person, and they're wondering what technologies elementary at-home learners need. They're hoping to plan ahead, and specifically, they wonder if grade 4 at-home learners will receive a Chromebook.
So great question. So at-home learners, similar to what we experienced from March to the end of the year, if you have a computer at home, that will be sufficient to access. Laptops, Chromebooks, to some extent, tablets will be very useful. Specific direction will be given by the subject teacher and classroom teacher, but it will be similar to the tools that you use between March and the end of June. And if you are having difficulty with connectivity, with software, with hardware, your classroom teacher or your subject-specific online teacher will be the one that will be the doorway to receiving assistance to ensure you have the tools you need. So thank you.
Okay, next question is from Nikki, And so Nikki has an operational question regarding student belongings, student personal belongings. She would like you to expand on the plan for students' personal belongings that need to go home with the student every single day. Does this mean that items previously left at school, for example, indoor running shoes, will need to go home daily?
Thanks, Nikki. We do give some directions, so they're not ambiguous. So by and large, we're asking students to limit the number of personal belongings they bring and try to bring them home with them each day so we can maximize distancing and not have our classrooms, the square footage be shrunk because of a number of personal belongings. That being said, there are opportunities at school for cubbies and lockers, and you'll be getting more specific direction from your school and classroom teacher or subject-specific teacher on what items could be left and where they could be left, such as indoor running shoes. But we really are going to try to minimize the number of personal belongings left at school so we can maximize distancing at all times. So thanks, Nikki. That was a great question and well worded.
The next question is from Daniela. She says the public board has said that if there is a grade 3-4 split class, the grade 3 students in that class will not be required to wear a mask, but the grade 4 students would be. She's wondering if it's the same directive with the Kenora Catholic District School Board.
Thank you, Daniela. And we're trying to issue as many of the similar directives. We work very closely with our coterminous boards and value those excellent relationships. So it is quite similar at Kenora Catholic. Although masks are mandatory for students in grade 4 to 12, we're really encouraging them for JK to 3 also. So we will encourage it, but the province has indicated that they're not mandatory for the grade 3 students, and that would be similar in the 3-4 split class. So that directive is similar in with our coterminous board. Thank you, Daniela.
Okay, so this next question is health and safety related, and it came up this morning earlier with our staff session. If someone tests positive for coronavirus in our schools, does this mean the entire school will close?
So again, that question was asked earlier, but it's a great question, and I thank you for allowing me to repeat that. We will follow the directives for the Northwest from the Northwest Health Unit, and if there is a positive test, they again spring into action very, very quickly and will issue instruction to all, including schools and individuals who may be affected. So if someone tests positive for coronavirus, it depends on a number of variables, which the Northwest Health Unit will assess, and they will give us direction on whether a classroom is quarantined, the members would be quarantined at home, for example, or a school closes. So that will be upon direction from the Northwest Health Unit. So not necessarily, but it is possible depending on the circumstances.
So the next question is from Anonymous, and they're wondering how exams will work for high school students.
Well, great question. You will receive more specific direction from St. Thomas Aquinas High School, but basically there will be a couple of days at the end of each quadmester for culminating or exam work. And so you'll receive more specific instruction from your subject teachers at the high school level.
Okay, the next question is from an anonymous participant. Can you please describe the hand hygiene plan for Kenora Catholic?
I can describe some elements, and if there's more specific questions, I can ask them. But for example, it's just, we've always been concerned about hand hygiene, but it's really brought to the forefront, obviously. So the physical act of washing the hands, we're following the Northwest Health Unit directives on how to wash your hands. So we'll be teaching that and reminding about that. With respect to recesses, for example, students will be asked to wash their hands before they go out and after. We'll be reminding students to wash their hands frequently in various situations because hand hygiene is very important in reducing the spread of COVID-19. And so again, we'll be continuing to take direction from the Northwest Health Unit, following those directives. And so there'll be frequent reminders and opportunities for students and staff to wash their hands throughout the day.
So the next question is from an anonymous person, and they ask, will our teacher be contacting us prior to the start date? I haven't heard anything yet, and I feel like everything is so up in the air.
So the teachers don't all have their class lists yet and whatnot. So again, we'll endeavor to get that done as quickly as possible. And teachers may indeed reach out as often they would in a regular year. If there's something up in the air, this is really your opportunity to ask the questions. And so, if you have a particular question or a particular series of questions, I'd be pleased to do my best to answer them now. But your child's either classroom teacher or subject teacher will be communicating as soon as possible.
Okay, your next question is about kindergarten students. What will the full day kindergarten classes look like? What changes are there going to be to ensure that the junior kindergarten and senior kindergarten children are safe and healthy as possible?
So similar to other grades, we are encouraging mask wearing, even though it's not mandated for FDK classes, junior kindergarten, senior kindergarten. Hand washing, it is always taught at the FDK level, but we will be emphasizing that. Students, teachers, and ECEs, other educators, EAs, will be helping students learn about distancing and try to apply that as much as they can in that environment. So there'll be routines within the class, but the classes themselves will look similar. The numbers will be a little bit smaller than traditional because we do have some parents who have selected at-home teacher-led learning. But by and large, they will be similar. You won't see the stuffed animals and whatnot, items that can't be cleaned as easily. And we will be implementing all of the overlapping recommendations and directives from the health unit to keep everybody safe in full day kindergarten, similar to what we would at all grades. So thank you for the question.
The next question is from an anonymous viewer, and they're wondering if any funding was provided from the ministry to replace or add computers for remote learning.
There's some money given to school boards for a variety, and one of those uses will be to replace or add computers. We will be putting in orders this fall to increase our computer complement to deal with computers that need replacement. As you can imagine, there'll be a bit more of a wait than normal because the demand is really, really high for computers right now. But we are on that, and we are proactively ordering now so that, believe it or not, probably closer to Christmas, we'll get additional computers to deal with the replacements that may happen. So thank you for the question. There was some money provided, and we're squeezing every penny to get the resources we need, including computer resources.
Okay, the next question is coming to you from an anonymous parent. My grade 11 student is choosing remote learning for family safety reasons. To date, a working computer has not been offered to her after 2 phone calls, and she was advised that she had to take her non-working school Chromebook to Wilson's for repair. Is this the normal protocol for Kenora Catholic?
So this is a repeat question, and absolutely contact your school principal, vice principal, and we will assist as best we can. So thank you.
The next question is from Lee, and Lee is wondering if a librarian will be going to the classrooms as opposed to having classes go to the library, and if students will be allowed to take books out of the library.
Yes, students are allowed to take books to the library, and each school will notify classrooms and students of the process for library access. But the library will be available, and students will certainly be allowed to take books. The processes will vary a little bit from what students are used to, but we still will be accessing, and the librarian will be as a key educator will be involved in that too. Thanks, Lee.
So your next question is from an anonymous viewer, and it's regarding recess fun. So the question is, my child is wondering if during recess, can they still play sports? For example, during a game of soccer, students are often closer than 6 feet apart.
So as always, there'll be staff on duty, and students will be playing on the yard, and staff will help students modify activities to continue to make them safe as possible, including soccer and soccer-like games. So great question, and our staff will be there to help students, as they always are.
The next question is from Anonymous, and they would like some clarification. So there is a different teacher for, say, grade 5 in-class learning and grade 5 remote learning.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to clarify that. So a teacher who is engaged in face-to-face learning will not be doing remote learning. So there is indeed separate teachers for the face-to-face learning and the remote learning. So a teacher who is engaging in remote learning is only doing remote learning, and a teacher doing face-to-face is only doing face-to-face learning. That's not to say that your student who's attending school every day may not have a Google Classroom opportunity with the teacher they have at school, but they won't be in the virtual school. The virtual school will have a different grade 5 teacher for those families who have elected to engage in teacher-led at-home learning.
Okay, next question is about lockers. Will the kids be given lockers since they are so close together?
So certainly, great question. Lockers will be available. Each school that has lockers will have processes to ensure distancing. For example, at St. Thomas Aquinas School, the assignment of lockers will be assigned in such a way that students will be able to distance. So there may not be a whole group of grade 9 lockers together, for example. There may be a 9, 10, 11, 12, and the grade 9s and 10s and 11, 12s would go to lockers at different times, for example, to ensure greater distancing. So there will be processes in place to ensure maximum distancing possible for the use of lockers. Thank you.
The next question is from Anonymous, and they're wondering if grade 7 and 8 students will still have exploratory options.
As I mentioned, there will be they will be cohorted, and the exploratory options will be conveyed by the grade 7, 8 teachers, how they would be available. So it will look a little different, but students will will endeavor to deliver the same breadth of activities that we do traditionally.
Okay, so the next question is from an anonymous person, and they ask, was the return to school survey the only way to have your child registered for remote learning?
Not necessarily. You can reach out to your current principal and notify them if you've changed your mind or have not yet made a decision.
The next question is from Ali, and they're wondering what busing is going to look like. There are a lot of students gathered at the end of the day waiting for the bus.
Thank you. So thanks, Ali. Dismissal procedures will be conveyed very clearly at the school level. Obviously, there may be some differences in the process that you're used to, so we have proper distancing as students are boarding buses. So that will be conveyed clearly when you do get to school. So thanks, Ali.
Next question is about lunch. If a child lives close to school, can they go home for lunch break?
So thank you. We are encouraging students to be at school in their cohort and stay with that cohort for safety. But indeed, if it's a parent's decision for a student who lives close to go home for lunch, then they could do that.
The next question is from Anonymous. If students have IEPs in place, will we receive a call from the resource department to discuss how to best support students prior to the start of classes?
So this will be similar to other years for face-to-face, and for online learners, we will still be applying the IEP as closely as possible. So that will be as you've experienced in other years, certainly.
Okay, so your next question is from an anonymous viewer, and it's talking about the Quadmaster approach. And this person is asking, are there going to be breaks in between a class for the grades 9 to 12 students?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. So the subject-specific teacher will have in-class breaks, so you're talking about during the 150-minute period. So they'll manage those in-class breaks so the cohort can stay together. But there may be further information that St. Thomas Aquinas High School will provide.
So the next question is from Anonymous. Regarding school supplies, will elementary students be required to bring their own supplies, or does the school board supply them? I'm wondering about sending supplies back and forth between school and home. And if I can just jump in really quickly, just to let everyone know, there are school supply web page links on each of the school web pages that you can access under academics.
Thank you, Ricky. You answered that beautifully, and I appreciate that. So about the back and forth, you'll receive direction from the teacher if there are any items that may fall into. But indeed, the supply lists are supplied by the schools, and if you haven't got them, you should get them shortly.
Sorry, I was just posting a link for the supply lists into the chat window and I got a little bit sidetracked. Ricky, can you do the next question?
For sure. This question's from Anonymous. For secondary school students, what time will morning class start? What time will lunch start and end? And what will end of day dismissal time be?
And Anonymous, you put oops, sorry, but that's not an oops, sorry. That's an excellent question. And so the times will be the same. You know, with the Quadmaster, the lunch will be, you know, after the 150 minutes, of course, and end of day dismissal will be the same. So the time span, there'll be that 300 minutes of learning available. So great question. Thank you, Anonymous.
Kind of like this one, Derek. Will the St. Thomas Aquinas High School science class be working to create a vaccine for COVID-19?
So thank you. I know that question's tongue-in-cheek, but hey, our students are incredibly innovative, wise, and intelligent, and so you know, you never say never. But you know, thank you for the question.
The next question comes from Karen. How does a virtual learner participate in gym class if part of their timetable for the period virtual learning is opted for?
Thank you. So there'll be a variety of daily physical, thanks Karen, there'll be a variety of daily physical education activities. So students may be doing the physical activity kind of on their own or with their family unit at home. There'll also be a number of other activities that are virtual. So some of it will be synchronous, some of it will be asynchronous, and you'll be given physical tasks, for example, or health-related research and learning that will satisfy the requirements of the expectations for physical education. Thank you, Karen.
Okay, your next question is from an anonymous viewer, and it's about the logistics for secondary school students in terms of coming and going from the school. Will students be allowed to leave class and return for off-site appointments that are parent approved?
So we're asking that students be in their cohorts as much as possible. So if those appointments can be before or after school, that would be great. But we recognize there's situations where the parent determines that that's necessary, and if the proper notifications are given, then students will be able to engage in those what are undoubtedly very important appointments.
The next question comes from Anonymous. Will there still be the Ontario Secondary School Literacy Test for grade 10 students this year? And if yes, how will it work for remote learners?
So that is a great question. We're still awaiting some direction from OSSLT about remote learners, for example. But although there is not EQAO for our elementary students, there will be the literacy test and the math test for our high school students, as there is normally. And so great question about the remote learners. There'll be more information coming out from EQAO about that, I hope, soon.
Okay, your next question pertains to St. Thomas Aquinas High School, and the question is, there were errors in credits listed in June. When and how can this be corrected?
So I encourage you to contact the high school, and there will be a process identified for that work.
The next question comes from Anonymous. Grades 9 to 12, will there be staggered lunch breaks or all at once as they are allowed to leave the school grounds? So smaller numbers anyways.
So great question. You'll receive further direction from the high school about the specifics because there is 150 minutes in the morning, 150 minutes in the afternoon. So there will be a common lunch break, but the staggering would be in the dismissal of students to help ensure that proper distancing is observed. So you'll receive further details at the school level and definitely from your subject teachers.
Okay, so your next question is about moving in between in-person and non-in-person learning. So if a student is in grade 8 decides to do remote learning after the first Quadmaster, is that allowed?
So a student in grade 8 would not be involved in a Quadmaster. They would have a cohort just like any other student in the elementary grades. So. But if a student who's in 9 to 12 who is engaged in a Quadmaster decides to do remote learning, then it may take some time to arrange that, but there are different junctures. If an elementary student wants to do remote learning at some point, then again, there may be a bit of a wait to get into the virtual school, but they'd be enrolled in the virtual school and placed in an appropriate virtual classroom. But again, we'd ask for patience because due to safety and whatnot, that might not be able to occur right away. Thanks for the question, and sorry I stumbled a little bit as I was understanding the question. Thank you.
So the next question comes from Anonymous, and they just like a little bit of clarification. What is a Quadmaster? I'm confused. Could you please explain it a bit more? I don't even know what it means.
Okay, so an explanation is included on what will be a recording of this, because that's an excellent question that was asked earlier, but I'll repeat. So a semester is the year broken into 2. So that would, for example, if we were in semesters this year, we would go from August 31st to January 29th, and a student would take up to 4 courses, 4 75-minute courses or so during that time. During a Quadmaster, a student takes 2 courses during each Quadmaster, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, and the class length is 150 minutes. The Quadmaster 1 runs from August 31st to November 10th. Quadmaster 2 runs from November 11th to January 29th. Quadmaster 3 runs from February 1st to April 19th, and Quadmaster 4 runs from April 20th to June 25th. So two courses for grade 9 to 12 students, each Quadmaster. And so you'll still get your full complement of courses throughout the whole year, and you'll still get your 110 hours of requisite instruction per credit under the Quadmaster. But that's basically what a Quadmaster is. Thank you for allowing me to repeat that.
Okay, so your next question is from an anonymous viewer. When students are in their classrooms and they're sitting down and settled in and ready for learning, will there be opportunities for them to have breaks from wearing their masks during the day?
So at recess time for elementary and during break times for secondary, students, when they're outside, students will not be wearing masks. In class, students in grade 4 to 12 will be, and staff will be wearing masks at all times. But if students are in distress for whatever reason, then they will be advised on how to safely remove their mask and have the time they need and then put their mask on and resume normal activities. So that's how that will work. But masks are mandatory in our school buildings for students in grade 4 to 12 and staff at all times otherwise.
Okay, the next question is from Anonymous. Where will grade 7 and 8 students be eating their lunches?
So I know in Red Lake, we have our grade 7 and 8 students there. Generally, that will be in the classroom, although if I've said that wrong, forgive me, St. John's School. At St. Thomas Aquinas, that instruction will be given, but students will be kept in their cohorts, and that will include eating lunches to the greatest extent possible. But you'll receive further direction at either St. John's School in Red Lake for grades 7 and 8, and at St. Thomas Aquinas for the 7 and 8s there.
Okay, so next part is from an anonymous viewer. My family's experience with at-home learning after March break was not a positive one. We had no direct teacher instruction, and it was an independent study model. And as a result, my children struggled. This really impacted my decision to have them return to school in person. Have or would you consider a pilot project class where teacher instruction is live streamed so that students who may need to stay home for illness can receive supported instruction with the least amount of disruption to learning?
So we would not be live streaming classes because it's a very different medium. When teachers are teaching face-to-face, there's a lot lost in the translation. So if students are sick from face-to-face learning, they will receive the work they need, and teachers will contact as they normally do to ensure, and there'll be a variety of ways students can get help while they're ill, but we will not be live streaming classes. And that is separate. If a student engages, of course, in virtual learning, they will receive the direct teacher instruction through synchronous learning. So you'll notice a difference if you choose that modality, if you choose that way of learning from your experience from March break to the end of June. There'll be much more synchronous learning than you would have seen.
The next question comes from Ali. If my child loses their mask, will a disposable one be provided?
Absolutely. We know that students and parents will do their best to ensure students arrive every day with their mask, but should students forget or they get dirty, then mask will be available to substitute for that one until they can get their mask from home the next day. So thank you for the question.
Next question, will the remote learning count towards the new mandatory online courses for high school students?
For high school students who engage in teacher-directed at-home learning, they will, if they do the work similar to what they did face-to-face, they will receive, that learning will count in the same way, absolutely.
The next question comes from Anonymous. How long will high school students have to sit in a class with no breaks?
So high school students will be in their class cohorts under the Quadmaster for 150 minutes, and breaks will be built in while they're in class, while they're with their cohorts. So you'll be directed by your subject teacher with respect to that.
Okay, next question is from an anonymous viewer, and she says, I know this may be a silly question to ask, but my daughter is asking if she will still be getting hot lunch ordered weekly.
So it is not a silly question, and the only silly question is one you don't ask. So thank you for asking it. And there will be the regular lunch and food programs that we have. They just may look, there'll be much more grab and go, and there'll be different processes. But we will, schools will be sending out further details, but we're trying to keep those as normal as we can throughout this this COVID period, which I hope will be short. Thank you.
The next question comes from Anonymous. Will students be allowed to play on the play equipment on the playground? How often will the play structures be cleaned?
Great question. So students will be allowed to play in the play equipment on the playground. As I mentioned, hand hygiene will be very important, and we'll be reminding students to wash their hands before going out to recess and after. Play structures will be cleaned similar to what they are. Wood structures are very difficult to clean, but if there is, excess dirt or something left over from the weekend, custodians will continue to monitor and look after that as they normally would. But hand hygiene will be really the key to safely using our playground structures.
Next question is about recess. Will cohorts of students stay apart at recess? Is there enough room for everyone to be out on the playground at the same time without mixing?
Thank you for the question. Recesses will be staggered to the greatest extent we can with the safe supervision we can provide. So we will try to maximize room in that way, and we will enable students to stay apart to the greatest extent possible. But there will be the medical officer of health have indicated when students are outside, the risks are lower, hence the students not being masked when they're outside. And so staff will encourage students to distance to the extent that's possible and practical at recess. Thank you.
The next question comes from Karen. Will virtual learners in grade 9 and up be given opportunity to connect with their student peers? Are there plans to ensure inclusion that is age and grade appropriate?
So thank you for the question. So virtual learners in grade 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 will be engaging with other learners who are virtual learners in that virtual school. There may be opportunities that your teacher who leads the at-home learning, there may be some of those opportunities, but by and large, you'll be engaging with other virtual learners, and sometimes, as I mentioned, individually, sometimes in small groups, sometimes in a larger, perhaps multi-grade group. So thank you for the question.
Okay, your next question is coming to you from one of our students. And this person says, I'm a grade 10 student. I just received an email from Principal Nicole Kurtz stating that Quadmaster 1 starts on August 31st, but isn't the school supposed to open on September 8th for grade 10s?
So that's a great point. So the Quadmaster does indeed, Principal Kurtz is absolutely right, does indeed start on August 31st, but we have 3 professional activity days where the staff will be engaging in final activities to get ready for school. So students will not attend on the 31st, the 1st and 2nd, as staff will. And then as I mentioned, there'll be that staggered start for grades 9 to 12 after that. So you're indeed correct. Grade 10 students would start on Tuesday, September 8th. And that's what the staggered start is. So different grades will start on different days. So thank you for the question. Great question.
The next question comes from an anonymous person. Are there any guidelines around students using the washroom? How do you prevent people from different cohorts being in there at the same time, or does this short time period matter?
Fantastic question, and everything matters for sure. So there'll be processes and direction given to at the school. We're going to try to limit the number of contacts that you might have in the washroom, and students will be advised on how best to distance. Yeah, we have the number of washrooms we have, and so it certainly is possible, but we will try to have procedures in place to make that less likely, but it certainly could happen.
Oh, my question disappeared.
That was my fault.
I think I've got it memorized. So the question was, for students that are in remote learning, will attendance be taken every single day? And if so, how is that going to happen?
Teachers will generally check in every day, so that will be in effect, but it won't be, we know students, the teacher will know the student is working and engaged, and so attendance may be a little different on days when the odd day there might not be direct contact, but as is always the case, if a student's not able to engage in online learning, the student should let the teacher know as soon as they know. But by and large, when you're at home and the teacher knows you're participating, you will be marked present.
Next up, we have a food-related question from an anonymous person. Will the microwave in the cafeteria be available for use at TA?
I don't know the answer to that question, so great question, so I won't try to answer it, but you'll receive information about that at St. Thomas Aquinas.
Okay, next question. Will the teachers be using Google Classroom for remote learning at St. Thomas Aquinas High School?
Some might. We have 3 what are called federated systems that we do use, or learning platforms. Google Classroom is one of them, and that is a tool that a teacher might use, similar to what they might have used in the past.
The next question comes from Anonymous. Will elementary students have staggered recesses and lunch breaks? If not, will they be expected to stay with their cohort, and how will this be enforced?
And we will, so the staggering will happen to the greatest extent we can with the supervision that we do have. So there might be some staggering. if it's possible. Students will be encouraged to stay with their cohorts, but you know, given the setup, that may not always be possible. But as I mentioned, our Chief Medical Officer of Health, it is safer outside, and so the risk is lower. So that's why we will be having recesses with multiple cohorts out there sometimes, and students will be reminded and supported, and so that's how we'll be managing that.
All right, I just want to mention that you just answered question number 100. So we have to mention these milestones when we have them. So your next question is coming from Karen, and she asks, if there is an opportunity, will virtual learners be paired with other virtual learners where there is an age grade match?
Yes, Karen, thank you. And there may be small numbers, but students will be paired closely. There may be multi-grade, but sometimes the whole multi-grade may be together for a virtual lesson. Sometimes just the grade 9 or 10 students will be in a smaller session. So that will vary, and that will be at the discretion and according to the professional judgment of the teacher who is providing that at-home learning.
Director Haime, we don't seem to have any other questions in the queue, so if anyone else has another question, please type it now, but there are no further questions right now.
Okay, thanks, Trina. And if people are thinking of other questions, that is wonderful, but I'll give a brief close, and if a question comes up, we will certainly answer that question. But again, I'd just like to thank you all for your patience, for your ideas, for your input, and invite that, because even though we have a very comprehensive return to school plan that I'm very proud of, I'm very proud of all the people who work so hard on it. It is a living plan, and circumstances will change. There'll be better ideas that we can insert in there, and if you have them, please continue to send them to us. And again, I'd like to thank everybody for being so incredible. Keep helping each other. This is amazing. I see we do have a couple of other questions, so before I do my final close, we'll try to answer those.
So this question's from an anonymous person. How will the school prevent racism against people of Asian origin after COVID? Racism against people of Asian origin has increased.
So as always, racism is not tolerated. Where it does happen, we take steps very quickly. If we have students or families that experience that, please do reach out quickly if you feel not enough's being done about it, because this is not valid, this is not true, and we will educate folks very quickly to both prevent and decisively deal with if there is racism perpetuated against people such as in this example. So thank you for the question.
Okay, next question is about remote learning. Will students who are engaged in remote learning be required to spend 150 minutes on each subject each day, same as in-class students?
So your teacher will give further direction, but we will try to mirror for grades 9 to 12 the Quadmuster. But you know, the teacher must ensure that 110 hours of instruction per credit is administered over the Quadmuster. So you may have more one day, less the other, and your teacher will work with you and work with your family to ensure that can work as well as possible for you. And there'll be a combination of synchronous and asynchronous activities, and that means direct interaction like we're doing now with the teacher or educational assistant in some cases, or the ECE in some cases, so that will be that will be tailored to meet your needs at home. But the 110 hours of learning has to happen for each credit, and the teachers will always ensure that.
The next question comes from anonymous. Would you be able to arrange a presentation in this forum by the Northwestern Health Unit before school starts so that we all have the same understanding of the safety protocols and procedures and could have questions answered in real time.
The Northwest Health Unit runs their own forum, so I encourage you to log in Thursday at 1, and they also record those. So I did show you on the Northwest Health Unit website earlier how to access those, how to access that section. So I encourage you to access those. So that will not happen. We will not be having a forum like that, but we have several links and how you can ask your questions directly to the Northwest Health Unit, and those Q&As are shared on the Northwest Health Unit website. And in addition, the recording of the session with Dr. Young Hoon is also available. So thank you for the question, and appreciate it.
Okay, so your next one is more of a statement from Karen, and Karen says, "Thank you for your open-mindedness, and we trust that there will be flexibility in supporting our learners."
Thank you, Karen, and that's a key component of good pedagogy, good learning, good teaching. We always do our utmost to meet the needs of our students so they can reach their full potential, and that doesn't change in COVID, that doesn't change in online learning. So thank you for that, we appreciate it.
So your next question is from an anonymous viewer, and they just ask, during the winter and during inclement weather, will there be opportunities for students to get a break from wearing their masks and be able to get exercise as well?
So we will hope for like last year, we didn't have very many periods of deeply cold weather. The year before we did. So we're going to, of course, hope for no extended periods, but staff will do their utmost in a safe way to ensure students do get the breaks as they need them from mask wearing in a safe way. So, but let's all pray we don't get extended periods of deep cold, because even without mask wearing, that's tough to take for everybody when we don't get recess. So thank you.
The next question is an anonymous person. I am a St. John's School student. Will you be coming up to ski with us again?
Well, thank you, and that was a delight, as my interaction with all schools is a delight. The principal does determine visitors to the school, and although I love all the schools and love to be part of it, that will depend, and that will depend on the situation, but I would be delighted if we had a safe way to do that again. Thank you.
Okay, so your next question is about the 40 hours of community service hours. Will the hours be reduced due to the COVID-19 pandemic? A lot of organizations are saying no to volunteers right now.
So right now, the Ministry of Education has indicated the community hours requirement is in effect. There will be expanded opportunities to get virtual community hours, and you'll receive more direction at St. Thomas Aquinas High School in this case, because and pathways where you can get your required community hours. So similarly, if I can expand a little bit, co-ops, there'll be opportunities for some virtual co-ops in addition to safe in-person co-ops, and again at St. Thomas Aquinas they'll have further information on that.
The next question comes from anonymous. Is the remote learning done with a video interface or just audio?
So they'll be both, certainly. We do use Google Classroom, we use Microsoft Teams like we're using tonight, and we use Brightspace as the 3 licensed and federated, safe, confidential platforms that we use, but that will be at the professional discretion of your teacher. So sometimes there will be certainly video interface, and sometimes there'll be audio. There may be reasons why, for example, families request that it just be audio, and you'll work with your teacher to arrive at the best place to ensure maximum learning. So thank you for the question.
Okay, so your next question is about the remote learning option. Is remote learning done with a video interface or just audio?
Okay, I think I just answered that one. Did I not answer the question that was asked? Could you help me out there? Because sometimes I read them and I don't answer the ones, so I don't know if I did that.
I don't know if you answered it or not.
I think it published twice by accident.
Okay, Okay,
Yeah.
so I did answer that question, so thank you.
There is another question though from Anonymous. Are water tanks still going to be there? I assume they mean water fountains.
Okay, so water fountains will be available to fill up water bottles. We're not encouraging typical use of water fountains. So, but students are encouraged to bring a water bottle to school, and we'll have opportunities to refill them. Drinking fountains will not be used in the same way we've used them before.
Okay, next question is from an anonymous viewer. How many more teachers has Kenora Catholic hired due to the pandemic?
We've tried to expand staffing to the maximum extent possible. We may have to hire a few more teachers for remote learning, but the funding that was provided was enough to hire some more custodians. But we did not receive money, for example, to get to the 15-to-1 that was often put forth earlier in the summer. So we have as many teachers as we could get, and as I mentioned, class sizes, although they're not 15 or lower, they are fairly low compared to other boards. So we've done with the resources we have the most personnel we can to ensure a safe return to school. So thank you.
And with that, Derek, that was your last question for tonight. You have answered 110 questions.
So again, thanks everybody. Thank you, Trina and Ricky. You are absolute pros in managing this, and I rely on you so much. Thank you for making this go so well. Thanks for all the questions. Those are excellent questions. So that's what, 240 questions and 2 live event Q&As. That's not including the staff ones, and so appreciate. They're all great questions. And as I said, the only question that's a bad question is one that's not asked. And so thanks for doing that. I think people have a much clearer view of what's ahead of us. And yes, that is Gandhi in the background, Gandhi in the background. So thank you. And Trina did handle that one. But in closing, I'd just like to say that we know that we are all doing our utmost to look after one another, and that is so pleasing to God. But we have God's gifts of so many gifts from God, including the gifts of love, including the gifts of grace, and including the gifts of mercy. And so we'll remind each other, we'll pray for each other, and remind each other of that continually as we move through a what is a difficult period. So I know we have a couple of great comments, and I know we have the famous Mr. Dunford question about his beard, and you'll have to ask Mr. Dunford that. So at any rate, I will bid everybody a wonderful evening. I will ask for God's blessings for you, and I will pray for you, and I ask that you pray for me and everyone involved in this wonderful endeavor we call Catholic education. So thanks everybody, and thank you for the thank yous. God bless, and we will sign off for tonight.